Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this particular one, yes, it's a little bit delayed with the events that have happened. I did actually create content myself, thinking out this scenario, and it all revolves around Optus and BCPs. And I guess it's more about reflecting back on that emotional intelligence and how we can always point the finger, we can always go, they could have done better, they should have done better, they should have prevented this. We could all look at Optus and say they should have had a backup, they should have had a plan, this shouldn't have happened. But I guess then you need to flip that coin and go, but if your company is better, you should have had a plan for when this sort of thing happens. What does your team do? So it got me to thinking around things like who and what companies and individuals, what is your BCP? I guess that's that challenge, that question, and I love some comments below if you've got some feedback or you want to share your view on it. But BCP itself, a business continuity plan or a disaster recovery, everyone calls it something different, but it all essentially is much the same of if tomorrow something happens, and that something can be various I guess scenarios. How do you keep doing business? And I guess in looking at, say, that Optus scenario, you go, so those bakers came in and they've baked all their goods for the day, and 4 a.m. hits and they haven't necessarily sold anything, so probably weren't even aware at that stage. So it's not until maybe, say, 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. they open their doors to the public to start selling their baked goods, and their EFTPOS machine doesn't work, so they can't receive payments. What is the plan? And I guess for a lot of companies, reviewing these sort of scenarios, we hope it never happens, but I've seen in a lot of companies they more worry about if our data center goes down, and then what? And that's pretty, that's quite a big picture of we're under attack, bombs are going off, what do we do, how do we operate? And really, at the end of the day, if that's the scenario, most companies will shut their doors and go into HasCon, life over limb. Everyone will, non-essentials will go home. If we're under an attack, bakeries and stuff will, go into a low-lying state. But what I think a lot of companies miss is it's more these real life examples of hiccups in business. And say the bakery, part of their plan could be if they lose their communications, for instance. Plan is, person goes down to Woolworths, Coles, or in America, similar grocery store, and they pick up a bunch of prepaid SIM cards and stick them in the EFTPOS machines in order to get payments still operating and be able to resume business for the day. Little to no impact. Yeah, you're down for probably an hour whilst they realise and they go and they do it. Now, 14 hours is quite a long time. We all probably didn't know that it was going to be offline that long. A lot of these things you'll never know. So you need to also work out that time of 1 hour in, do you pull the pin? And it could be only offline for another hour and you've now made this other investment, but you need to look at it and go, but in reality, a couple of $100s on some prepaid SIM cards, you've still done your day's trade, and that's equated to a couple of thousand, or depending on the industry, depending on what your daily turnover is. But that's where you've got to look at that and go, yes, it's a cost of business, but the other option was you close the doors and you write off a loss of the day. So I think in the limelight of it all and the aftermath, we can all look at it and say Optus could do better, Optus should do better, and I'm not discrediting that. They should have a better plan for their own telecommunications, being the second largest, the impact and the damage that was done. I also challenge change control at a company that scale. Clearly their change control is not very attuned. But where I work and in the environments I've worked in, everything is through change control, and if that sort of scenario happened because of the time that it happened, it's not a break fix. I wouldn't look at that and go, something's broken, let's fix it. when it's spot on time-wise, like 4 a.m, something's deployed and something's been implemented or executed in the environment. And now you need to look at it and go, what changed? Because changes is what happens, which causes it, or something breaks. They're the two scenarios really that would cause it. Now, if it was 4:27 a.m. that this happened, okay, something could have broken. Fair call, because it's an obscure time for something to just randomly decide to collapse. So I look at that and go, yes, we can also take away from that and go, maybe there are a lot of companies out there that could challenge their change control. Do you know what's changing in your environment and when? Do you know when your providers are changing stuff in their environment and when? For instance, if you use a data center facility, do you know when they're doing their power upgrades and this and that, or when they're doing upgrades to hardware, or when there's potential that you could go out of service for a window of time? Everyone has their uptimes, everyone has their reliability, their availability. The reality is we're all human, errors happen, accidents happen, but I just look at the delay in time from knowing when it occurred to when there was a resolution. There's a lot in there from a technical standpoint that just leaves me personally, from my technical experience, scratching my head on how it took them so long to know that that was a cause. So I guess my challenge, my throwback over to you as a viewer, to you in your business, even you in your own personal life, if you have a plan of how you're going to navigate criticalities in life, and that actually reduces that level of stress. No different to when you've got some money in your savings account. You don't stress about where your next paycheck is, or you don't have that financial, I guess, burden or stress, because you've got that safety net there, that provision, making it so that you can be comfortable and understand that it's not dire. The same can happen if you've got if you've got a plan of how you're going to navigate things in the event. That reduces the potential that the damage will happen when something goes wrong. I also read something quite fascinating in the emotional intelligence, and it talked about the fact that when they did a study with a bunch of people watching a horror movie or similar type thing, something that was quite traumatic. Some people were told to smile the whole way through it, and then the study showed that those individuals were less impacted by the trauma elements of that movie than those that just reacted as they instinctively did. So those that watched it and they were smiling and they were, I guess, giving off a positive vibe, versus those that I guess might have been a little bit more apprehensive and a little bit more what's going to happen around the corner. They were on edge a little bit more. They were more traumatized or more impacted by it and took more recovery psychologically from that scenario. So it does play big on how we also perceive things. So if you work out, and I guess that's that whole breaking things down, when something happens, bite-size it. We don't try and eat a whole pizza in like one scoop. We cut it down into smaller segments, and that's how I guess we need to look at every scenario, every situation. How can you cut this down? How can you actually, I guess, make this less scary, and kind of break the pieces and kind of go, well, yeah, okay, it's inconvenience that happened. I can think about this. I could navigate over that way. And that will give you a lot more resilience and more resistance to being shaken. So yeah, chuck some stuff in the comments. If you're interested in more BCP stuff and sort of more those business, you've probably seen I'm floating around between the personal and the business kind of elements. I've got plenty of more content and stuff around both of those. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up. If you want to chuck some comments and I'll respond, if you want to have a conversation. And otherwise, you'll see me on the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.